You're watching DIYNate. If you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to tell me about your project in the comments.
Alright friends, today on this episode of DIYNate, my daughter was playing wall ball, firing a tennis ball up against our garage when she happened to send it right through our garage window. And that's a little frustrating. At the same time, one of the positives on this is I have a piece of plexiglass that is ready to go that's fairly close to the same size. We're going to measure it and see if we can replace this thing in a hurry. We'll see how it goes. All right, taking a look at the back here, you can see the broken window, the glass hanging out. But if you look closely, there are some screws here that look like they're holding this frame together. And I'm pretty sure I can just take that whole frame off, fit a piece of plexiglass in there, and swap it out. Obviously, I'm going to be careful taking the glass out. I'll show you the piece of plexiglass as well. This just happens to be a leftover piece of plexiglass from the pandemic era. And if you look, this piece of plexiglass fits almost spot on. And so I think I'm going to have enough room here to use this. I'm going to have to measure it and cut it a little bit. But once we get it out, we'll check it, make sure it's going to fit. It might be a little bit short, but I think I could still probably find a way to fudge it in there if I need to shim it up or something. So we're going to use this piece of plexiglass. It's got some wrap in there, but once I open it up, it'll be a pretty clear plexiglass and it'll look pretty good in our garage. Plus, if she ever throws a tennis ball at this window again, it'll hold up. And this is the classic, one of those things I didn't throw away. I kept it because I knew I might need it. And lo and behold, this piece of plexiglass is almost exactly the right size. All right, so I really have no idea what the brand name of this garage door is. But what we're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and bring a bucket over here and collect the broken glass since it's going to start falling out. You want to be careful if you're doing anything with glass, obviously. Probably take more precautions than I'm going to use here. I'm just going to get this bucket here and have this ready to go. And I may pull a couple of big shards out carefully. There's a big one. I don't want that hitting the ground. A small one. That one's going to be in the other side. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. This one, again, I could use gloves to be a little more on the safe side, but I'm being careful enough. That one's in there pretty good. See if this guy's going to come out. There we go. Big chunk. Another big one right there. And last but not least, this guy might have to come out with it. So now that we got the majority of the glass out, I'm going to set this down. I'm going to go ahead and use my drill here. Got my Ryobi drill ready to go. We're just going to take this out. I'm going to set the screws to the side while I do this. So a pretty good size screw. In fact, they've got a little magnet up here on the drill, so I'll be able to just tack that on the magnet. And I would imagine many garage doors probably have this solved for them. So if you have a kid who broke a window or somebody tried to break in through your garage window, whatever it might be, you may have a similar solve. So I hope this is helpful for anybody who's trying to do it. I'm not recommending necessarily plexiglass, but since I happen to have it laying around, I think it's going to be a good solve. It looks like it's pretty easy to score compared to glass, which is a lot more difficult. And I'm sure you can have glass cut to fit at a glassmaker shop. But in my case, we are trying to keep this thing as simple as we can and as cheap as we can, since that's the name of the game for me. And also keeping the HOA off my back if possible. Don't want them coming in the next couple days telling me, hey, you got a broken window, you need to get that repaired. So I'm trying to get this done in a hurry. And interestingly, it almost looks like the frame is actually on the outside, which is cool. So I'll be sliding that on the front. So if you're looking from the camera view here, I can see the frame coming off the front. So it'll be slide that piece in, drill through the back, and hold it in position. I may get another set of hands from my daughter, girl who threw the garage door to begin with. But I do want to make sure it doesn't fall off when I do this. So this glass piece probably is getting pretty close to ready to come off. There's one of my screws. There's my last piece. Go ahead and knock out the remaining two. I'm going to hold that frame in position too so I don't lose it. I don't think the frame is breakable, but I don't want to risk more damage, a bigger problem. Try and grab this one. There we go. All right, so now we got pieces. There goes one frame. Here goes the other. So that's actually a two-part frame. So that's something I didn't know. Haven't seen that before, but I'm happy with what I'm seeing here. Should make the fix pretty easy. Got both pieces there. And so really, now that we know what we're working with, we can kind of make the assumption that this frame size is what we need. Front side, back side. And that's our window that we want to pop this in there on. And I'm gonna check the outside.
And then we'll cut the plexiglass to fit.
All right, so there's what our garage looks like now with the frame out of there.
So for this part of the project, we've got a variety of pieces we're going to use. Got my frame here with the inside and the outside. This inner piece is the part that goes on the inside. Here's the size we're working with. So I know the inside frame here is going to be what I'm going to measure. We're going to take a look and just see how it's looking so far. So the inner frame here, got my Milwaukee tape measure. If you need a tape measure, I'll leave one in the comment. It says 19 inches, and I think that's probably a pretty safe bet. I can probably take just a shade off of 19 inches for my length. I want to be careful not to undercut. You can always cut a little more off. 19 inches by 13 and a half is our square. So 19 by 13 and a half. So that's the number I'm going to be working with. And I'm going to write that over here so I won't forget. 19 by 13 and a half. I have a feeling my width is going to be a little bit light compared to that 13 and a half, but I think that's going to be okay as long as I can get a full 19. Yeah, I'm only at 12 inches, so it's going to fit. It's going to be a close cover there. You can see right there, but I'll probably be okay there. Because of this piece of plexiglass, that's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I might use some tape to solve that problem. And I can also look at this frame here, see how well it fits in that frame, and that's exactly what I was hoping. So because this frame actually has less cover, I have a good feeling that if I put it on this side, I'm going to be just fine. So I'm not going to take anything off the width because I don't have any to spare, but I'm betting I can tape that on there using some Scotch tape or something, and it'll fit right in there. So that's my game plan, and even better than having to measure here, I can go ahead and mark off my spot where I want to cut. So I've got a pretty good idea of how much I can take off of this. So I'm going to go ahead and mark my cover here to indicate where I want to cut. I'm going to give me a couple marks to draw a flat straight line on. I have a pretty good feeling wherever I'm going to be at is going to fit just fine. And so I'm going to go get a straight edge and we'll run that across. And then the other thing is we could use a combination of a circ saw, or we could use a straight edge razor. And I'm probably going to start with a razor just to be on the safe side here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this so that I can score it. And in fact, I'm going to score it right across the top with the level in place here. This is a 12-inch level I'm using for a straight edge. So I'm just going to mark it one last time, give myself a nice good line. And I'm also leaving a plastic wrap in place because I know at any given point I don't really want to scuff this up any more than I need to. This is not the best straight area to use for this, but we're going to give it a shot anyway. Score it once, score it twice, and as I start to score it more and more, it'll start holding up pretty well, and I'll start feeling it working its magic. Get that straight edge straight, especially with it only being 12 inches, but you can simply snap it. So that's probably what I'm going to try and do here in a second. And I do want to be careful since I don't have a lot of this to go. I've scored it a couple of times. I can definitely score it some more. See how deep I can get it. If I don't like that very soon, and if I'm not feeling it crack, I'm going to go ahead and run a circ saw on it and just avoid any other potential disaster there. Okay, so we've gotten it scored a few times. Give myself some room there. All right, we snapped it. And that's exactly what we wanted. Good clean break. And so I'm going to finish that on the plastic wrap right there. And we got a good clean cut. Feel good without having to use the circ saw. I did have the circ saw and I've used it before on these. And in this case, I felt like it was probably better to just go with the snap. But you could really use either of those methods to get this. And so now we're just going to fit this in there one more time and make sure that that's going to look good. We pop it in there in our tray. Fits very nicely. So that's good news. This is going to be a little bit of a hack since I am a little bit shy on both sides. So I'm going to use some tape over top on both sides. And we're just going to put that tape right on top of it so it's going to hold. Now we're going to go ahead and take off our plexiglass paper. As you can see, that looks like a perfect piece of glass right there. So that's what we were going for. Now we're going to set this in. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use a little bit of tape on each of the edges to tape that and hold that in position. And then we'll pop it up there. We'll pop the back rack on as well. This little frame here is going to hold out like this. And this is why it might be nice to have somebody helping me out putting this in there. I'm going to make sure it's going to fit, but pretty much when I do that, I'm going to have somebody holding this side while I pop the other side. So probably best to do it as a two-person job. And I could probably do it with a piece of tape, but see if I can get somebody to hold that and we'll go from there. All right, I'm just going to take a piece of clear tape and Take a little bit of it, that will be fine. And we're just gonna come in here. I'm gonna take this first piece of tape and I'm gonna use a little bit of the overlap here on both sides. So I'm gonna position that as smoothly as I can, so very little of it shows up in the window. I'm gonna roll it over the side as well to give me as much sticking power on both sides as I can. I'm gonna do this on all 4 sides. Just gonna basically put tape to hold it in position. I wouldn't have to do this if it was more of a perfect fit. Since it's not a perfect fit, I'm having to tape it in there, and that should hold pretty well, at least well enough for us to get the mount screws in. All right, there we go. So now our plexiglass is in there. It doesn't need to hold it all the way. It just needs to hold it long enough for us to put it in position. I think it's gonna work just fine.
So there's my set of hands holding it in. Looks so much more clean, even though it's plexiglass. So on the other side, all right, so now we're gonna take this frame. We're gonna get our first screw ready. First screw in should really hold things in place once we get that going. And I'm going to pop this guy in there. I'll try this one down low. First screw is in, holding it in position. We're gonna go up top. Next, a lot of people might do the corners first. I'm gonna do the middle though. And it's sealing it nicely. It's pulling things together, which is great. So I'm gonna do another corner over here. Paige has got her hand on the back there, so she's doing good. And you'll see it start to grip and pull it in, which is good. Come over here to this side, pop this one in. All right, and I know some of Paige's friends told her they're gonna watch this video after she destroyed the window. So if you're Paige's friend and you're watching it, thanks for checking out DIYNate and encouraging Paige to help out in this project. Paige is just happy I'm not billing her for this, and it does give me a good little DIY project. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how to handle it yourself. Plexiglass is pretty cheap. I had some leftover from the pandemic that I was able to use. And oddly enough, it was the exact right cut, which is pretty great. And as you can see from this side, I mean, this looks like almost there's no window here. If you touch it, you can see that the plexiglass is holding pretty well. And there's Paige's hand waving through the window. Paige, give me a high five. Let's prove there's actually a window here. All right, now it's dirtier, just like it should be. Match the other window. Well, next time Paige throws the tennis ball at the window, I've got a feeling it won't break this one. So that's pretty cool. That is how we do it right there. That window looks pretty good. So our plexiglass is in place. That should be good to go. We'll take a look from the front side, see how it looks. We'll definitely be able to see which window is the new window. As you can see here, plexiglass, it's good to go. If you were to look closer, you can definitely see there's smudges and stains on all the other ones, and that one is as clear as it gets. But good news for us, as you can see, it's got the flex to it, and we are good to go. All right, our window is holding up really well after a couple weeks of installation. Feeling really good about this project. You've been watching DIYNate. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great day.